is to be sure we can sharpen everything to be sure that we can keep the momentum. And it's also quite important, your initiatives, because it's free companies within 80 initiatives as well, or companies all working towards environment and knowledge-based. And you want to have as a consortium to be sure to make a difference in such looking for data to improve wetlands and wetlands management. Of course, wetlands functions and evaluation are quite challenging because we need data to be sure that we can have lobbying and advocacy equipments or tools to share with the others. Before we start, I think we have to just remind people, some of us might be in a mess with some internet connections very poor. If we can sometimes not having the videos or other equipments, it might help to improve the connections. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Dr. Jane, for making time. And I think we can now go straight to our business, which is we have in our agenda items. The first one is the opening statement with our key stakeholders here, Dr. James, Dr. Emmanuel, and Dr. Shahbo. And after that, we'll be jumping to our speakers, with high profiles panelists, which will be getting through what's going to happen in terms of knowledge, in terms of contributions. We have 3 speakers as much as we have already known. And the last step might be, or will be, the discussions with also some very knowledgeable stakeholders who are working on this field a long time ago and is still working and mentoring. We will give them floors to be sure that can capture what has been mentioned so far. With your permission, Dr. Jane, I think we can invite you to give a first statement. Thank you very much indeed. You have a floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope it's time for me to give my remarks now.
So sorry, Jane, before your remarks, I have to just to remind people that you are the Executive Director of Southern Africa Science Service Center for Climate Change and Adaptive Land Management, based in Namibia, I think. Thank you very much. You have a floor.
Okay, thank you so much, colleagues. Good afternoon. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
I am so happy to be here this afternoon. Dear moderator, Canon Diaye, Associate Expert at Wetlands International Africa. My dear brother, Dr. Emmanuel Nkurunziza, the Director General RCMRD. And my dear friend Cheikh Bo, Director General CSE Senegal. To all of you colleagues, good afternoon. I must say that I could never have been more comfortable in any session than with my team. The 2 gentlemen are extremely knowledgeable, very skilled and experienced, and yet possess so much intellectual humility that encourages others like me to thrive around them. So to all of you that are here, you are in excellent hands. For some divine intervention, we found ourselves working on the wetlands under the GMES. And we never planned this. But to initiate our collaboration from East, South, and West, we have already signed a tripartite agreement to leverage on our collective expertise to our collective efforts towards restoring Africa's wetlands. I would therefore like to thank Dr. Cheikh Mbo to have spearheaded this excellent initiative too. I'm therefore very honored to be speaking today on the World's Wetland Day with our own theme, contribution of Earth observation data to the knowledge and accuracy of wetland economic value assessments. In August 2021, the United Nations General Assembly reaffirmed that wetlands are vital to humanity, nature, and sustainable development. And they proclaimed a resolution that February the 2nd becomes the World Wetlands Day. The United Nations Assembly, like us, recognize that wetlands directly and indirectly serve humans and their livelihoods, especially regarding agriculture and food security. Moreover, wetlands are also one of the most productive and biologically diverse ecosystems. They not only contribute to livelihoods and economic development, but they are important in several ecosystem services and functions. They serve as habitats for wildlife and bird species and provide air purification, flood reduction, drought relief, and coastline protection. Under current climate change conditions, their role in carbon sequestration is extremely important. Conversely, wetlands are also the largest natural source of methane and remain a significant concern in climate change prevention. In addition to that, they are the most effective carbon sinks on Earth. And a critical solution to global warming challenges, therefore a priority for restoration. But in the last 50 or so years, they are heavily degraded and they lost most of their function. In fact, a study recently mentioned that wetlands disappear 3 times faster than forests. But that is just as it goes on their functions and their start in exploitation. The importance of wetlands is also visible in the numerous global policies that are linked to their monitoring and restoration. And these include, but limited to, the Ramsar Convention, the River Basin Commissions at regional levels, the regional protocols on shared water courses, because most of these wetlands are transboundary. Water regional policies, as wetlands are also important sources of water. And the African Space Policy, among the others. May I also say that there are several SDGs that are linked to wetlands. although the one that is directly implicated in SDG 14, life below water, but there are also others.
Mais il y a d'autres objectifs aussi.
Including SDG 2, SDG 6,
L'objectif 2, l'objectif 6,
SDG 8 and 9,
l'objectif de développement durable 8 et 9,
11, 13, 14,
11, 13, 14,
15 and 17, which
15,
is
même
policy.
17, qui sont aussi liés directement ces zones humides.
So there is a lot in the importance of wetlands and also
Donc,
how
il y a
they
beaucoup
link
d'éléments liés à l'importance de ces zones humides.
not only the way they link to national and regional policies, but also to global goals.
Donc, ils sont liés à des politiques régionales et nationales, mais aussi à des objectifs beaucoup plus globaux.
And the SDG 13 climate action is also important, and therefore wetlands are linked to Paris Agreement.
Donc, l'action climatique est aussi liée à tout cela.
So in recognition of the importance of wetlands for sustainable development,
Donc, la reconnaissance des zones humides pour le développement durable
and for us to reach the relevant targets under the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals,
et qui nous permet d'atteindre les objectifs de développement durable des Nations Unies,
the following have been put forward as important measures to reach these goals and restore the wetlands.
ont été retenues comme des mesures importantes dans la restauration des zones humides.
Integrating the wetlands into national decision-making process. Ensuring that wetland services are fully considered as solution for land and water management. Okay, the land and water management. Protect. You're committing to, yes, committing to protect biodiversity in the ecosystems. And more importantly, to ensure the participation of communities.
Dr. Jane, sorry for disturbing, disrupting.
And this must include indigenous people.
Ceci doit inclure des démarches.
Yes.
You have to just not to click on the link for translation. You have just to use your own system.
Okay. Yeah, that's it.
Sorry. You can go ahead.
You don't need to listen to the.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, just go ahead.
So we must ensure that participation of communities, especially
la
indigenous people,
des communautés, surtout les populations indigènes,
in managing solutions for wetlands.
dans la gestion, dans les solutions pour les zones humides.
It also encourages business to assess the risk of the operations in wetlands and their dependence on these variable resources.
Qui pour exploiter ces ressources, les différentes ressources dont on peut en tirer.
I'm therefore very delighted that the three of us, CSE, RCMRD, and SASCO,
que nous trois
have already enshrined these recommendations in our project under GMS
dans nos différents
programs. Please allow me also to mention that in alignment with our theme, contribution of Earth observation data to the knowledge and accuracy of wetlands economic assessment, that today we are also celebrating Earth observation as an essential tool for us to understand drivers of change in the wetlands, measure the pressure, visualize the state, forecasting the resulting impact of the political choices made, and to be able to make decisions for future.
Prendre des décisions pour l'avenir.
Dear colleagues, today we are
Chers
also celebrating the
aujourd'hui,
cooperation
nous
between
célébrons
African
la
Union and
collaboration
European Union,
entre l'Afrique et ses partenaires,
which has funded the 3 projects and so many
qui
others to
ont mis
use
en
Earth
place des
observation
projets et
for
beaucoup
Africa
d'autres
economic development.
l'utilisation des connaissances pour le développement des pays africains.
I am very grateful that we have an
Je
open and
suis
free access to
heureux de voir
innumerable
que nous avons
data
un
of
accès
the
ouvert
communicators
et gratuit.
and tools from the European Union. As I conclude, dear colleagues, I wish to thank you all, dear moderator, fellow speakers, panelists, and most importantly, you, the participants, and our translators, for your different roles in ensuring that we are here to celebrate one of the most important ecosystems, the wetlands. Thank you very much.
Pour votre attention. Merci, Dr. Jane.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Dr. Jane. Vous avez mentionné.
And we are very blessed because we have touched the ground and we have made this huge introduction, which might bring us very soon in with deep discussions about what you have mentioned. Defining wetlands as really one of the key ecosystems within
sont des éléments importants dans notre écosystème dans nos régions.
Mainly in technical and logical issues. Please, for the follow speakers, try to not to touch the link because it can make some interference with the other systems. Congratulations for this introduction and this talk statement, which we might be coming later on deep discussion. Thank you very much. We are moving to our next speaker, a statement, opening statement, Dr. Emmanuel Nuzungiziza, Director General of Regional Center for Mapping Resource for Development, based in Kenya.
You understand? I'm me not, but if you want to speak.
Il faut mettre les autres participants. Yeah.
Thank you, Moderator Ndiaye. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we hear you, Prof.
No,
very well, sir.
No, thank you very much. Dear listeners, or those following our webinar today, colleagues on the panel, friends, DG Mbo, ED Jen, it's my pleasure also to be with you today, together with our fellow natural resources stewards, to celebrate
la célébration de la journée
has covered considerable ground, and I hope it will help me summarize what I had to present today. Let me also recognize Bashir, Dr. Bashir and Brice from the AU GMS and Africa Project Management Unit, under whose auspices we are all operating as consortium leaders. Before I proceed, maybe let me first introduce to you our consortium, which is one of a number of consortia set up by AU to deliver this GMS and Africa program. We work in the Eastern Africa region, and we cover countries of Comoros, Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Kenya, Madagascar, Mauritius, Rwanda, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, Seychelles, Tanzania, and Uganda. And we all stand united in our commitment to provide information to the relevant institutions and authorities that safeguard our invaluable wetland ecosystems. So as RSMLD, as I said, beyond coordinating the wetland monitoring in our region, we also handle land degradation monitoring and assessment, as well as putting together important geographical data. So as I mentioned, Dr. Jen really did a very good job in telling us the functions and importance of wetlands. So without having to repeat, I'll try and connect this more with the theme of the day in terms of how Earth observation data actually contributes to the knowledge and accuracy of wetland economic value assessment to demonstrate what we actually bring to the table as Earth observation people. So as correctly pointed out, wetlands in our region and other places of the world are biodiversity hotspots. So they harbor a rich array of plant and animal species. So proper inventorization and monitoring of these ecosystems is essential to understand and conserve the unique biodiversity they support. So that's where we come in as Earth observation people, because the data we generate and tools that we have enable policymakers to assess the status of wetland biodiversity, identify areas of conservation priority,
identifier les zones de priorité de conservation et essayer de protéger des changements. Donc,
critical contribution from our science as Earth observation people in terms of addressing this importance of biodiversity hotspots. We also know that wetlands play a critical role in improving water quality and mitigating floods. By trapping sediments and pollutants from runoff water, they help maintain clean water sources and reduce the risk of flooding downstream. Earth observation data can provide insights into wetland dynamics, including water flow patterns, vegetation cover, land use changes, thereby facilitating informed decision-making for water resource management and flood risk reduction. Thirdly, wetlands contribute to climate mitigation or climate regulation by sequestrating carbon dioxide and mitigating the impacts of climate change. Monitoring wetland carbon stocks and greenhouse gas emissions is essential for assessing their role in climate regulation and designing effective climate change mitigation strategies. With our Earth observation data and tools, we can help quantify carbon storage in wetland ecosystems and track changes in vegetation cover and land use, supporting climate policy development and implementation. Fourthly, wetlands help protecting valuable coastal and riparian habitats. Monitoring changes in vegetation and land cover is crucial for assessing erosion risk and implementing measures to mitigate soil loss. With our data from Earth observation, we can provide valuable information on vegetation dynamics, land surface changes, and erosion processes, thereby enabling policymakers to identify vulnerable areas and implement erosion control measures effectively. We also know that wetlands provide a wide range of economic services, including water supply, fisheries, agriculture, and tourism. Proper inventorizing and monitoring of wetland resources are essential for sustainable economic development and poverty alleviation in any region. So with our Earth observation data and tools, we can support the assessment of wetland resources and the economic value decision-making for resource management and investment planning. And by the way, this data I'm talking about is that it's now available from the work of GMS and Africa from the different consortia. Also, wetlands are important in climate adaptation and resilience. In the face of climate change, wetlands are critical for building resilience and adapting to environment changes. Monitoring wetland dynamics and assessing their vulnerability to climate impacts is essential for developing adaptation strategies and enhancing resilience in our region. Earth observation data can provide valuable insights into wetland health, hydrological changes, and habitat stability, supporting climate adaptation planning and implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, wetlands also provide opportunities for outdoor recreation and nature-based tourism, contributing to local economies and livelihoods. Proper management and conservation of wetland ecosystems are essential for sustaining recreation and tourism activities in our region. Earth observation data and tools can support the identification of ecologically sensitive areas, visitor management, and tourism planning, ensuring sustainable use of wetland resources for recreational and tourism purposes. Esteemed participants, ladies and gentlemen, we also know wetlands hold cultural and spiritual significance for indigenous communities in Eastern Africa and perhaps across the continent, representing ancestral lands and providing essential resources for cultural practices and rituals. Proper inventorying and conservation of wetlands are essential for safeguarding these cultural and spiritual values. And with observation data, we can support the documentation of cultural heritage sites, traditional land uses, and indigenous knowledge systems associated with wetland ecosystems, facilitating their preservation and sustainable management. In summary, ladies and gentlemen, conducting a proper inventory and providing Earth observation-based data and tools for wetlands management and wise use in our region are essential for conserving biodiversity, protecting water resources, mitigating climate change, supporting economic development, enhancing resilience, promoting tourism, and safeguarding cultural and spiritual values. By leveraging the power of Earth observation technologies, policymakers can make informed decisions to ensure the sustainable management and conservation of wetland ecosystems for current and future generations. Allow me to highlight some of the remarkable efforts undertaken by RCMRD and its consortium to support the enforcement of policies in wetland management within our region. We routinely produce wetland change maps to inform stakeholders of the risks associated with expanding wetlands and flooding. Our consortium has also developed wetland maps to delineate boundaries and foster community engagement in wetland conservation. Through partnership with private sector, SIPs, Rocket IT, Génomique, GRI, we have developed innovative tools that facilitate rapid assessment of wetlands, wetland vulnerabilities, and monetization of wetland ecosystem services. We actively engage with stakeholders to address gaps in legal and policy frameworks and promote evidence-based decision-making. Additionally, the consortium has played a considerable role in capacity building by training over 2,000 professionals through the GMS and Africa program and awarding scholarships to 14 masters and 5 PhD students. Furthermore, we support stakeholders by providing data and tools to facilitate the analysis of information related to wetland management. On legal and policy frameworks, we have established that most countries in the region have these frameworks for governing, managing, and protecting natural resources, including wetlands. These frameworks are often enshrined in national constitutions. They are also party to international obligations and agreements, such as the Ramsar Convention and national regulations like the Clean Water Act and Environment Act in many countries. The aim of these regulations is to safeguard the environment, combat degradation, and mitigate the adverse effects of climate change and other human activities. However, there is a notable lack of evidence-based data to support implementation and enforcement of these policies. Additionally, some policies lack specificity, leaving room for misinterpretation and illegal activities in wetland areas. As we reflect on our collective achievements, let us recognize the invaluable contributions of our partners, stakeholders, and leaders in the natural resource management sector. Together, we have forged partnerships, trained professionals, and advanced the cause of wetland conservation. In conclusion, I extend
Et en
my
conclusion, je voudrais me tourner vers James, Dr. Diop qui a été nommé pour diriger la Commission africaine.
Let me also extend gratitude to the head of the Consortia for SASCA, CSE.
Et je voudrais aussi féliciter le consortium d'autres panélistes.
Inspires us all. Let us all continue to chart a course towards a future where wetlands thrive, communities
préparer le chemin pour l'avenir, pour la prospérité. Et merci beaucoup pour votre attentive et je suis prêt à votre disposition. Okay. Will you ask?
Jane introduction regarding wetlands, and you have been in depth talking about
parler des défis importants, rappelant l'importance des zones humides, la biodiversité et la culture.
Now, and with new tools which can help us in important
avec les nouveaux outils et
we congratulate you once more, and I'm sure during our discussion we might come in very important discussions and conclusions. Thank you very much. Let's go to the last speaker from our high table, Dr. Cheikh, Director General, Centre de Suivi Écologique in Senegal. He is reminding about the benefits on wetlands. Thank you very much. You have the floor, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. I will say a few words in English to thank my fellow colleagues before I shift into French for my fellow Francophone in West Africa. First of all, I saw the interpreters reminding Emmanuel to speak slowly for them to do the translation. So this will be a general rule to make the life easy for the translators, to give them room to digest your words and to translate it, the important statement that Emmanuel just did, and my dear sister, Jane. I think, Mr. Moderator, my dear colleagues who started this opening ceremony did say all that we need to say. First of all, on the vivid, sparkling commitment between our consortia, but also between our consortia and the GMS in Africa, in African Union. It's an African way. This panel talks about wetlands. It's only all Africans. You're always using science from Africa. And this bottom-up approach to derive knowledge is a long overdue action that the continent needed to move science forward. I thank you all with your title and functions. We congratulate African Union for putting this together, and congratulations to both Tijan and Bashir for their promotion. I would not come back. Je ne vais pas revenir, monsieur le modérateur, je vais parler en français maintenant, sur les éléments importants qui ont été partagés par ma collègue Jeanne et Emmanuel. Je vais juste dire deux petits mots pour permettre aux speakers d'aller en profondeur dans les idées. Ce que j'ai entendu et qui correspondait à mon speech que je ne vais plus lire, c'est que si vous regardez les zones humides, il faut les regarder en termes d'opportunités, mais aussi en termes de risques. Les opportunités, vous les connaissez tous en tant qu'experts, c'est des questions d'eau, les questions de sol, services écosystémiques, des forêts, etc., la production agricole. Mais l'importance des zones humides dans le programme GMS, c'est pour faire face à un certain nombre de risques qui peuvent exposer ces zones humides à des risques de dégradation et, chemin faisant, à des risques d'une perte d'un potentiel, d'un capital naturel hyper important partout en Afrique. Les zones humides sont exposées aux questions de sécheresse, de surpâturage, de pression démographique, aussi de la compétition des terres. Mais ce sont les seules zones qu'on rencontre pratiquement dans tous les écosystèmes, depuis les écosystèmes désertiques jusqu'aux écosystèmes humides des forêts tropicales. Les noms peuvent changer, on les appelle oasis ici, lac par là, mangrove de l'autre côté, peatland dans les zones trucs. Mais ce sont des zones humides. Si vous élargissez les catégories, il y a beaucoup de sites importants qui sont parfois des parcs nationaux. Le colonel Sidibé est là pour parler un peu des zones de migration des oiseaux dans le Sénégal. C'est des zones qui sont très diversifiées. Donc, leur gestion n'est pas la chose la plus simple. Et c'est parce que leur gestion n'est pas la chose la plus simple que GMSI est intéressé en essayant de faire en sorte que les données qui sont produites par ISA, Copernicus, etc., puissent être utilisées pour caractériser ces écosystèmes et suivre les risques auxquels ces écosystèmes-là sont exposés. Et nous le faisons en essayant de connecter les scientifiques africains, de connecter les connaissances africaines pour produire une plus-value intellectuelle permettant d'améliorer la gestion de ces écosystèmes. Je vais terminer, parce que je ne veux pas être trop long, en rappelant que le sujet important qui nous unit, c'est la valeur économique de ces écosystèmes-là. Et ces sujets-là nous permettent d'entrer de pleine figure sur la question des bioéconomies, de la bioéconomie tout court. Et quand vous regardez la carte des pays africains qui ont souscrit à cette bioéconomie avec une stratégie très claire, il y a beaucoup de pays africains qui y sont déjà, mais sans savoir les leviers par lesquels il faut passer pour que la bioéconomie puisse être une réalité dans nos pays. Donc, nous leur offrons une opportunité unique de prendre les wetlands comme étant un ancrage, disons, évidentiel par rapport à la bioéconomie. Et cette bioéconomie, la valeur économique des zones humides, pour nous permet de refaire un peu le calcul de la vraie valeur économique de ces wetlands. Et cette valeur économique va au-delà de la valeur marchande ou les prix des produits qui sortent de cela. Ce sont des valeurs qu'on peut articuler autour de la sécurité humaine, autour de la santé humaine, autour des valeurs sociales, autour du bien-être. Et cet ensemble de facteurs autour des wetlands constitue pour nous un aspect hyper important. Et si vous mettez tout cela ensemble, j'ose espérer qu'à la fin des présentations et des commentateurs qui ont été judicieusement choisis, on pourra tirer des conclusions pour orienter un peu nos pays sur les questions de résilience des communautés en utilisant les wetlands, les zones humides comme étant des sites par excellence pour promouvoir la résilience, à la fois pour les questions climatiques, adaptation et mitigation, comme l'ont dit mes collègues, mais surtout la transformation sociale. Et c'est de cette transformation sociale à travers la bioéconomie qu'il faudrait peut-être mettre en exergue pour qu'on puisse avancer dans la gestion du capital naturel pour rendre viables les autres capitaux comme le capital financier et le capital humain. Voilà, monsieur le modérateur, quelques mots parce que je ne veux pas revenir sur la portée purement, le narratif très puissant que Emmanuel et Jan ont déjà dit. Je voulais juste donner quelques orientations et je m'assois comme tout le monde pour apprendre de nos présentateurs. Je vous remets la parole, monsieur le modérateur. Merci.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mo. Really, it was straightforward, and congratulations for following our colleagues as well. And you're really focusing on the wetlands valuation, the importance of wetlands functions as one of stopovers for key challenges, biodiversity, and also the natural capital, human capital, and economical capital, which is quite important, combining both to can make a difference where communities are really involved, looking into in natural solutions as such. Thank you very much. And thank you for taking time to shorten your intervention to make our friends who are now coming on board to get maybe sometimes to deepen about the keynotes we have mentioned and the strong statement 3 of you has been already mentioned. I think now we can go to our colleagues. First of all, I will invite...
Nous allons aller à nos collègues. Je vais à présent inviter Dr. Ouzanani, qui est le directeur de développement du savoir en Afrique du Sud, pour partager sur l'identification de son sujet qui est très intéressant, un rapport qui porte sur l'importance de la technologie pour renforcer les savoirs. Vous avez la parole. Docteur, vous...
Good afternoon, moderator. I hope that I'm audible, and I also hope that colleagues can be able to see me, at least momentarily.
Hello, before you move on, please, observation.
Keita.
Observation, my name is Gani Agbaje.
Sorry?
Yes, I raised my hand to observe something with regards to the interpretation.
Okay.
The selection of the English is not being reported. I mean, we are hearing nothing other than the original language. So I don't know what else we need to do.
Okay,
So,
I'm sure our technician will help.
Thank you.
Our assistant at the technology and his logistics might help us to rescue us from these interpretation combinations. Please, Choro, if you're hearing us and our interpreters, can you help with the assistant of our IT to improve? I'm sure we will catch up. Thank you very much for reminding us about the challenge we are facing on the interpretation. Mr. You have a floor. Doctor, you have a floor.
Thank you. Thank you once again, moderator. And let me also, first of all, acknowledge and appreciate
et d'apprécier, exprimer mon appréciation du leadership
CSE, RCMRD, and SASCAL, and also acknowledge our colleagues from the African Union Commission, and really appreciate and thank them for giving us the platform to be able to speak in this webinar. As already stated, my name is Tacheba. I'm with SASCAL in the Regional Secretariat Office in Windhoek. So for my submission, basically building on to what has already been laid out by the leadership, to the aspects of identification of the opportunities that are offered by geospatial technologies for us to better understand our wetlands. And in this particular case, I'm focusing mainly on a project that we're currently implementing in the SASCAL consortium, which is on wetlands monitoring and assessment service for transboundary river basin in Southern Africa, commonly referred to as WEMAST, which is in its second phase. Maybe just to reflect quickly in terms of the outline of my project, my presentation, I'll talk a bit about the consortium in terms of its stakeholders, just to integrate the aspects of how we all pull together to utilize the geospatial data towards wetlands monitoring. I'll talk to the implementation objectives, the geospatial data sets that we are taking advantage of in this particular case, as well as speak to the indicators that we
les indicateurs que nous utilisons.
Monitoring. Over and above that, I'll speak to the products and services that are generated as part of our user engagement process to ensure that at the end of the day, we have uptakers that are capable of utilizing the products and services and as such being able to really take advantage of the products for the management of the wetland resources. Then I'll conclude. I cannot overemphasize the fact that it has been highlighted already, the importance of our wetlands. And in Southern Africa, we happen to be also endowed with a sizable area of wetlands, inland wetlands, which provide to a large extent a number of services, and I think those have already been highlighted, but for the purpose of this submission, I think I would like to say that wetlands are key in sustaining livelihoods in all aspects of it. We all know that they provide ecosystem services, which has also been highlighted, as well as responsible for biodiversity conservation. But on the same token, we realize also that there's a number of challenges that the wetlands do experience. Challenges due to overexploitation of resources within those wetlands, such creating an imbalance. The challenges of pollution, to some extent provided by, caused by, transit routes, lack of informed management plans and tools, which inadvertently mean that there's need for us to be able to put in place relevant tools, technologies that can be able to make provision and inform these tools. The context of our consortium, and as I said, it really points to the collective in terms of ensuring that at the end of the day, we have got sound geospatial technologies, we've got capable experts that can be able to make provision of those technologies. And on the other side, we have got an avid users who are basically taking up these products and services based on something that they can fully understand and they can be able to represent on their own right. So as a consortium, we have 6 technical partners. We've got 2 strategic partners. We've got a private sector representation, and those are listed in the bottom box. Basically, we've got the SADC WaterNet, who are very crucial in terms of our policy standing and how we inform the water resources in the region. We've got the universities or technical institutions who are really quite strategic in terms of the geospatial technologies uptake, the capacity building to ensure that we've got capable resources going forward. Why? Because we realize that when it comes to geospatial technologies, they are not at a standstill. They are constantly evolving, and especially with the extent of, other supporting technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, which basically are more and more becoming relevant to strengthening geospatial technologies and providing relevant and timely information and data. So they are key in the process of the implementation of this project. Our private sector partner located is also key in ensuring that they put together the relevant tools and technologies which speak to the wetlands management process that we want to put in place through the geoportal. Our key audience, our key users are really the river basin commissions who have been tasked with the management of the wetlands in the region. We have the Kuvelai or the Kuvecom, we've got the Okavango, we've got the Limcom, and then we've got the Zamcom, which is in the Zambezi River front. Basically, you can see the extent of the wetlands as highlighted on the map on the right, which is quite sizable, and which is also well represented in terms of the different partnerships, in terms of where they sit. So what is the main focus? As already stated, it is becoming more and more critical for us to provide relevant data sets, relevant information that can be utilized or that can be taken up towards the management and monitoring of wetlands. So in the process of the implementation of the GMES, we must phase 2. We embarked on a process to upscale and operationalize the geoportal, which was developed in phase 1. This is now to ensure that it delivers products and information services for policymakers, for private sector, and other end users. So specifically, we are looking towards access to satellite observation data, as well as combining it with in situ data on wetland monitoring and management in the region, so that at the end of the day, we have got more representation of products and services that can be taken up by the user community. Our geoportal is an online platform. It is currently now live, and we are making improvements as we go along. As I said, geospatial technology are basically evolve as and when you want to be able to progress them in providing more and more relevant information. So key to the geoportal is the Earth observation products and services, which are really geared towards sustainable wetlands management. And also ensuring that the data is available to support sustainable wetlands assessment and monitoring. Now, speaking about the data, the first phase of the GMS geoportal was mainly constituted by data sets that I would rather say are more from a coarse resolution perspective. But what is happening now is that we're trying to identify more high resolution data sets with the view that then we can then be able to extract indicators that speaks to exposure, sensitivity, and resilience. And in those, we also have subcategories that speaks to land cover, vegetation, wetlands inventory, so on and so forth.
Etc.
In terms of our focus, as per the
En termes de focus dans ce géoportal,
we're looking at data sets that are constituted by a wide range of spatial resolutions from 300 meters. And this is where we look at indicators like land use, land cover, as well as vegetation indicators. On the sensitivity side of things, we look more now into more high resolution data sets, including Sentinel and Lancer data sets at about 10 to 30 meter resolution. And this is where we look at, for example, soil moisture as well as water quality, with quite a sizable temporal resolution of about at least 20 years. And then when it comes to resilience, this is where we look at indicators like fires, which are quite prevalent in our wetlands, at variable ranges in terms of resolutions. Beyond the indicators, we now specifically talk to the services, and these services we develop in sync with our users, simply because we want to make sure that they are part and parcel of their development. We look at the wetlands monitoring and assessment service, which is a main focus. We look at the water quality service, as well as the basin vulnerability index, which I'll speak to in the next slides. This is a typical extract from our interface, our geoportal interface. And in this case, just basically highlighting what the users can be able to access as and when they access the platform. Based on the data sets that are already available, users have got the ability to be able to do certain data analysis, which gives them perspectives into information about the spatial coverage, for example, of different indicators, as well as also gives them information about the origin data or the metadata that speaks to how we come about with those kind of solutions. But as I said, the main aspect around this is that we want to make sure that the services are actually validated and taken up with the users. A key feature of the geoportal is the ability to be able to generate reports and fact sheets that can be taken up by the policymakers, and providing information, including data as well as statistics, that can immediately be consumed to aid the decision-making as well as actions to be taken in addressing the specific challenges that are faced by the wetlands in the region. So far, the initial aspect of the mapographics, as they're commonly called, has been able to reveal a few aspects based on the data sets that are on the platform so far, which are now being taken forward and being worked with and validated with the different users. Just to give a quick highlights on a few of these, the region constantly experiences incidences of flooding, some of which in incidences can lead to disaster management scenarios. So it helps to always be able to identify specific areas that can be impacted or affected by this flooding. So the feature as it is currently makes provision for users to have access or to extract key areas that are affected by the flooding, and also highlight the magnitude through which such flooding can be affected, can affect those areas. Vegetation is a key aspect in these wetlands because most of them experience seasonal changes, which leads to buildup of willows or biomass. A key feature that is occurring in these wetlands is fires, which can be detrimental in some instances on biodiversity and other related aspects. But one thing that we have realized is that we can then be able to identify the potential of such fires to occur based on what we can identify through the different vegetation indices that we extract. So highlighting areas where there's more likely to be vulnerability of fires, for example. Land use cover is key in these areas because that is where different products as well as services are derived by the local communities for their livelihood purposes. So it is essential that one can be able to access and to be able to understand the dynamics in terms of the changes in land cover, changes in land use, which can actually be able to be utilized for natural resource management as well as wetland management in these particular areas. I did highlight this issue about flooding, and it also sort of reverberates or emphasizes the same aspects. And this basically given the aspect of sustainability to flooding, which allows decision makers to be able to make decisions well in time in terms of possibly evacuating or abandoning areas that can be flooded. So as I said, our key slogan is that we take these indicators and develop services with users for themselves. And the simple issue here is that we appreciate that products or service development is not a once-off thing. It requires an iterative process where even after we've been able to produce any prototypes, we take it to the users, we go to the field, we interact with them, and we appreciate the uptake on it. They get to understand what we mean by the terminology, and they can be able to relate it to phenomenon on the ground. So this is where we constantly engage with our stakeholders, especially the River Basin Commissions, to ensure that then we can be able to really emphasize these aspects of developing or designing products and services with our users for themselves to be able to take going forward. Just a key highlight also in terms of the temporal changes that we've identified that also inform decision making. For example, indicators like soil moisture, which, as you can see here, there's significant changes that occur in a period of about 12 years from 2010 to 2022, which then basically can be associated with the different land use aspects as well as the different climatic scenarios that are encountered in the region. The same applies to the wetland status, which is basically also utilized to be able to assess such. A classical case which really also enhances the ability of geospatial technologies is the uptake of mobile applications. A key feature that is linked to our geoportal is the mobile applications that has already been developed, at least from an Android perspective. And the idea is that users can then be able to access features, can be able to access data sets on the geoportal, even when in the field. And I think the key aspect here is that they can then be able to validate features on the ground, which is key to ensuring that we keep the geoportal data sets being validated and being up to date to inform the scenarios on the ground. This is just the key highlight in terms of activities that we've already started in terms of engaging our key users in ensuring that we do user acceptance tests and ground truthing and validation, and basically demonstrate the mobile application, which is really becoming popular in this space. Stakeholder engagement, as I said, is quite key. It enables us to be able to interact with our users and to be able to forge forward in further enhancing and strengthening our communities of practice. So in a nutshell, based on what I just submitted, we are in a course where basically we want to emphasize and continue to emphasize through the GMS wetland monitoring program the need for geospatial technologies to be utilized as they provide timely data for wetland monitoring and also immediately informs policy and action. We have identified that user engagement is essential to ensure that there's local uptake and also buy-in. The key indicators need to be validated with users to ensure that they really understand what it is that they're tracking and that it is something that is relatable to their day-to-day lives. We've appreciated that online resources such as our geoportal and further integration with other data sets are key going forward to ensure that as more and more advanced technologies come through, we can then be able to make provision of these services not only to our local users, but also to avail it to other users that may want to interact with the platform. I think a case in point is the capacity building initiatives that we're currently building to ensure that users can then be able to have interoperability between our platforms as well as other platforms online. For example, the Google Earth engines, of which we've already started doing capacity building through trainings that are provided by our technical partners to ensure that then we can then be able to further enhance access to wetlands monitoring services. I thank you.
Hello? Hello, Doctor?
I submit Director of Assemblies. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And we wish not you to stop now because it was quite informative and you have opened a very nice window indicating the samples in Southern Africa wetlands, mainly in inland wetlands, which are quite critical for communities. And with your top science, you have tried to make it very smooth for us as clever people in mathematics or whatever. We can jump on it, we can carry it, we can grasp it. And really, it's why I wish we as colleagues who are going to intervene, because you are now our clever part of a program. Please be, because we need maybe to have more discussions after your papers, and it's quite good because we want really to follow. Nobody wants you to stop. But try to see if we can, for the others, just to have 10 minutes, then we can have enough, because we might need you afterwards for your intervention. Thank you very much for your understanding. Let's move to our next panelist, Dr. Hilda Manzi, because we are really from top science. Now we're going to see how we can manage with the economics. Doctor, you have a floor.
Thank you so much, moderator. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, very well, madam.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sure, Hilda. It's clear.
Okay. Okay, allow me to make my contribution on the topic on identification of wetlands, ecological, cultural, and importance.
Slideshow, Hilda.
Pardon?
Slideshow.
Okay, this is good.
Excellent.
It's good?
Excellent.
Okay. So on the topic of identification of wetlands, ecological, cultural, and economic importance, monitoring and non-monitoring values, I'd like to appreciate our consortia partners, RCMRD, whom we have worked closely together under the private sector to be able to carry out a socioeconomic evaluation of at least 7 wetlands in 7 countries. And in this session, you'll be able to see the contribution of Earth observation data towards knowledge and accuracy of wetland socioeconomic value assessment. I'd like to start with a few definitions that are key, what ecosystems are. I believe we are all aware what an ecosystem is, the interaction of animals, plants, and microorganisms with surroundings. And that is where you get ecosystem functions. And it is from these ecosystems functions that we tend to draw ecosystem services. But we cannot draw ecosystem services without the existence of what we call people, which form the human capital, the social communities in which they exist, that form the social.
Systémique sont donc le capital naturel qui est constitué par les personnes. Et c'est le premier capital, c'est le capital humain.
Then we get to use the ecosystem services. These services could be in form of food, services could be in form of transport, services could be in form of air quality, and so many other services that we can draw from wetlands. And in the context of wetlands, in this particular presentation, I will maintain the discussion on wetlands since we're celebrating the Wetlands Day. And then we also have the natural capital, assets that we are able to grow through the ecosystem services. And that is what contributes towards the human well-being. And that is what concerns me about economic valuation of wetlands and the ecosystem services. What are the most important steps that we have been able to follow when it comes to ecosystem socioeconomic valuation of wetlands? One of the most important steps is stakeholder engagement. And under stakeholder engagement, we have 2 key stakeholders, the primary stakeholders that form the local communities, and we have secondary stakeholders that could be non-government organizations, could be government organizations that are assisting these local communities to manage the particular wetlands. What is of importance and the role of a stakeholder is to be able to identify the wetland that needs economic valuation. And why do we need the economic valuation? There are 3 reasons why the economic valuation is very important. An economic valuation could be done to assess levels of degradation because certain services could disappear as a result of degradation. Number 2, an economic valuation could be done to gauge whether the conservation measures that are being implemented that have been able to achieve any impact or success. Yes?
You may slow down. I was following you in French and the translator is requesting for you to slow down a little bit.
Okay, I'll try that. Sorry for
Please.
that. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that under stakeholder engagement, what is the role of the stakeholder? And the role of the stakeholder is to be able first to identify the wetland that requires economic valuation. And why do we need economic valuation? We need to check whether issues of degradation have affected the ecosystem services where the community draws their economic holding from that particular wetland. Number 2, we would carry out an ecosystem service valuation to be able to check whether the conservation measures implemented are able to make the impact required, or are we being able to get return for investment in terms of the money invested in conserving. Number 3, and this is something we have been able to come up as a result of some of the work we have done. In Ethiopia, they are doing what you are calling sustainability strategies. So they have sustainability levels. So you carry out an economic valuation to check whether we are retaining ourselves within sustainability levels allowed for the use of ecosystem services. So you're not allowed to go beyond a certain level. And that's what we look at sustainability levels, which is also under conservation, but quite unique in terms of sustainably being able to use our wetlands. What is the other role of stakeholders is to be able to identify the ecosystem functions, identify the ecosystem services. For example, if it is a wetland, the stakeholders can tell us we do fishing here. There's cultural importance in this particular wetland. We do transport from this wetland. We also are able to draw other services from this particular wetland. And that is what informs the economic valuation. Allow me now to go to step 2. Under step 2, which is very key, and this is where the Earth observation data comes in and becomes very critical, is the biophysical quantification of the ecosystem services. So once we have identified the ecosystems, as shown in the diagram on my right, the wetland has cultural heritage as provisioning services, as food and fiber. We have flood regulation from that particular wetland. We now move to the next. How do we map this particular ecosystem services? And that is why the Earth observation data becomes very critical, because when it comes to ecosystem services, there are 2 ways in which to do it. There are those ecosystem services we can map directly, for example, flood regulation, water storage, carbon storage, and there are those we map indirectly, provisioning services like food, fiber, and fuel. Allow me to go back a bit and say, under biophysical quantification of ecosystem services, there are 3 types of services you get. You get the provisioning services such as food, fiber, and fuel. We have regulating services that enable us to regulate our climate, such as the carbon sequestration, carbon storage, and then we have including nutrient recycling. And then we have the cultural services, where we look at reasons why people are using a particular wetland. It's because of the specific cultural services they get from that. So those 3 ecosystem services enable us to use Earth observation data to identify which we can map directly and that which we can map indirectly. Step 3. Step 3 is very interesting. This is where we undertake the economic valuation of ecosystem services, working together with the stakeholders. You don't leave the stakeholders in step 1. You walk along with them in all the steps to be able to understand for a particular ecosystem service, or just a service, let me just use the word a service. If they're getting fish, how do they get this fish? Is the fish directly in the market, or what happens? So you're able to gather that information from the primary or secondary stakeholders. And in this case, we have various types of economic valuations. We can use direct market valuation, where we have the market price. We can have revealed preferences, stated preferences with cultural services. Under the market price-based, I'll just mention shortly, we have the cost-based methods. For example, we can calculate why we have avoided damage cost. Simply because we are conserving this wetland, there's an avoided damage cost to a particular population downstream that would have been affected by floods. We could have something we call mitigation cost. We could also have something called replacement cost. How much will it cost us by removing mangroves from and actually building a wall, which is the case of some of our areas along the coast. Those that have countries along the coast, you find there's some areas where the mangroves are no longer there and we have built the wall. Is a replacement cost to do the same work that a natural wetland would have done by having the mangroves there. And then finally, we have the production function methods for valuation, and these work very well for regulating services, because regulating services are actually there to support other economic activities. When we regulate, when we have carbon storage, we are regulating issues of climate change, and then we are able to support economic services such as food production. We also have the nutrient recycling that takes place in the wetlands, and these nutrients tend to be used by some of the economic activities that involve a bit of agricultural activities that happen alongside the wetland areas. And now I come to the most interesting part. We have a tool we have developed alongside RCMRD called the Cost of Land and Wetland Degradation Tool, COLWED. In short, it's called COLWED. And this tool uses the Earth observation data under step 1 and 2. So once the tool does the biophysical indicator, it has a platform for you to be able to do the economic valuation and to be able to find outputs under that. This tool actually has been developed under the ecosystem service concept. And under this ecosystem service concept, we have applied economics of ecosystem and biodiversity, the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, and the systems of environmental economic accounting, which actually are the backbone of economic valuation of any natural resource, including wetlands. And so the COLWED tool comprises of 25 inbuilt submodels, which 24 measure and evaluate different ecosystem services. So each ecosystem service, if it is carbon storage, has its own model. If it is food provision, it has its own model. And then the remaining submodels actually actualize the landscape total economic values by summing up individual land use values. Both the biophysical indicators and the economic values are computed. I know I've talked a lot and said so many words, but I would like to go to a use case scenario that we have been able to carry out. This is Kilombero wetland in Tanzania, a very rich wetland that provides quite a number of services. And one of the services that we were able to highlight is the charcoal production. That is a provisioning service. What was interesting about the provisioning service, when you look at that map, we are able to map it at the pixel level. We look for data to show us where in particular the area where the harvesting of timber for charcoal is taking place, and value that at the pixel level. And then using various zonal statistics, we are able to now represent that at landscape level. So you can be able to see two values in the map. If we look at the 2018 map, you see the value, the per pixel value highlighted in a purple color. And then we have the landscape value to represent the entire area where the charcoal is happening. And then on my right, we have the valuation in 2022. The value slightly goes down. And it was interesting for us. What does a valuation map say? When you look at a valuation map, what is it telling you? Is the value going down means degradation is taking place? If the value is going up, does it mean we're doing well in terms of the sustainability levels that we have allowed for that wetland to be utilized? And for this case, we investigated, and the stakeholders told us that as at the beginning of between 2021 and 2022, a law was passed actually for Kilombero wetland to now become a game reserve to be managed under the wildlife services in Tanzania. And so charcoal production had been actually restricted, or basically they are working towards banning that along the wetland. And that's why you see in 2018, the value is a bit high, but when it comes to 2022, the value has gone down because of those particular restrictions that are moving towards conservation of Kilombero wetland. Just like I was discussing about what should come out when you look at an economic, what are the reasons? Are we doing it to value to see conservation measures? Are we valuing to see degradation? Are we valuing to see sustainability levels, whether they're being observed or people are actually going above and going to issues of over-exploitation of the available services? Then we have a very interesting map for food wetland. Food wetland is a very important wetland in Africa and in Southern Sudan, to be particular. You'll be able to observe in the 2018 map, we are looking at the total ecosystem value. There have been a lot of studies done for food wetland. And for us, we were able to do the pixelated ecosystem value to be able to appreciate areas where there's high value in that wetland and areas of low value so that we can be able to investigate further and get to understand why the value is changing. And so when you look at down here, the total economic value as at 2018 was around $9,733,486 US. You look at it as at 2022, 696,427,761 million US dollars. It tells you something is happening there. And if something is happening, we need to investigate and say, are the conservation measures working? Is the community, the primary stakeholders, working towards conservation measures? Or are we seeing issues of degradation? There's a bit of information even up to specifically the ecosystem services, how they were behaving. The heritage services, this is something that came out for Sud Wetland. Cultural services came out very well in terms of this particular wetland, and the community willingness to pay to actually retain some of those cultural services is something we're able to document and populate for that particular wetland. So finally, the most important step, and which makes ecosystem service valuation very important, is the communication of the results to the stakeholders. So once you get the ecosystem service, and once you are able to tabulate them using Earth observation data, I believe when you visualize is much better than when you have those statistics in tables. When people tend to visualize, they tend to see the locations that are being impacted and the locations that require some serious decisions to be made. And some of these ecosystem values, once showcased on the map, they will inform policy change, because you need to understand if there's an issue of exploitation of fish, then you need to understand what is it that we need to do. For example, in Kilombero wetland, we realized that the fish population has been going down based on the data that we were able to generate, but the agricultural activities have been increasing over the years in Kilombero wetland. So the question was, is the use of agrochemicals in the wetland as causing actually the nurseries for the fish, where the fish are able to breed, having issues? And we tried to look for studies. A few studies came up to showcase, yes, there could be the role of agrochemicals in Kilombero wetland, but a lot of that information, when it comes out now, the stakeholders and technocrats need to work together to be able to identify the challenges that come as a result of low value, the low values that you're seeing from a particular ecosystem service. Then we look at the policy change once it's implemented. For example, if we reduce or ban use of particular agrochemicals in a certain wetland, we expect an ecosystem impact. We expect fish population to go up if that had a direct impact on the fish. I'm just using it as an example. And then we're supposed to see changes in the ecosystem service. Changes in this case is where we are able to see an ecosystem service that could have disappeared coming back, an ecosystem service whose values were too high, indicating overexploitation coming down, an ecosystem service whose values were very low, moving towards sustainable levels. And then that is how it impacts on human welfare, because at the end of the day, we do not want to impact the human welfare negatively. We want to be able to do that positively. And at the end of the day, we have economic values of changes. And one of the things that we have been able to learn as we undertake economic valuation, and one of the things that we have pushed as we meet these stakeholders and have discussions, that as long as you don't know the value of a wetland, it is difficult for you to be able to take care of it. You must understand the value, if possible, the monetary value, so that you can be able to attach a particular need and desire to conserve and protect. Because all of us know when you have something valuable, you want to protect it and preserve it. If you don't understand its value, the probability to actually misuse it is normally very high. I'd like to end on that note. Thank you very much. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hilda. Really, from moving from this high sense and really valuations and your sample on wetlands, which has been looked into economical and non-economical values and the different capitals which are brought to well-being as such. And you are indeed with one of the key issues is the communication, how to transfer all this data, all these solutions, all these regulations through a simple tool, and how to put it in a policy level and in the advocacy level to be sure it's understandable for stakeholders, mainly the policymakers. Congratulations for this depth, and we will be moving now to the last interventions of the speakers. Dr. Ali Saidi from CSE, who is going to identify the means and techniques and integrating wetlands functions and values into decision-making tools, following what you have already entertained us. Thank you very much indeed. Dr. Saidi, you have a floor.
Ok, merci bien, colonel. Et merci pour les deux intervenants donc, par rapport au sujet très important qu'ils ont eu à aborder. Je vais partager mon écran et dès que vous voyez mon... Est-ce que vous voyez ma présentation?
Oui, mais en forme de PowerPoint présentation.
Oui, je l'ai mis. J'espère que ça apparaît
Très bien. C'est bon.
OK. Donc, à la suite des deux premières présentations, Dr. Bouzani et Dr. Hilda, qui ont abordé pas mal d'aspects que je vais aborder, donc ça me permettrait de pouvoir économiser certaines parties. Donc, c'est de travailler sur un peu quelle est aujourd'hui l'importance de l'évaluation de ces services écosystémiques des zones humides et pourquoi aujourd'hui il est important de faire recourir aux outils de la cartographie pour faciliter un peu ce travail-là. Donc, je vais articuler ma présentation autour de 3 points essentiellement. Donc, l'importance des zones humides. Donc, je crois que ceux qui ont débuté la session, notamment Dr. Diène, Dr. Emmanuel et Dr. Mbo l'ont largement évoqué dans le speech. Et ça montre à suffisance que les zones humides aujourd'hui sont à la base de nos moyens d'existence. Revenir un peu sur pourquoi il est aujourd'hui essentiel et pertinent de recourir à l'évaluation économique, mais également comment aujourd'hui, et je suis heureux de voir que mes deux prédécesseurs l'ont évoqué, comment cette cartographie des valeurs peut nous aider à mieux asseoir donc, la planification du développement. Je vais commencer par une réflexion que je vous souhaiterais partager avec l'assistance. Une réflexion qui a été mentionnée par Van Dev lors d'une interview dans le journal Le Monde, qui disait que il faudrait que nous essayons de découvrir quelle est la véritable nature de la valeur, ce qui nous permettrait de mieux considérer la valeur de la nature. Donc, je mets déjà sur la table cette expression de Pavan Dev. Donc, j'invite tout un chacun à commencer à y réfléchir et on verra par la suite le pourquoi cette citation est importante. Donc, les services écosystémiques, comme je le disais, les personnes qui ont pris la parole au tout début de ce webinaire l'ont largement évoqué et ont démontré à suffisance que ces zones humides et les services écosystémiques qu'elles nous offrent sont à la base de nos moyens de subsistance. Quand on fait référence au dernier document intitulé Perspective mondiale des zones humides, donc de 2021, il est clairement évoqué dans ce document que la santé et les moyens d'existence des populations dépendent des zones humides bien gérées. Donc, c'est pour dire que c'est le socle de nos moyens d'existence et si ces zones sont dégradées et perdues, c'est toute notre économie et même le bien-être de l'humanité qui sera plus ou moins menacé. Mes prédécesseurs ont évoqué, c'est ce que j'ai essayé de représenter en bas et à gauche, les différents services et la multitude des avantages que nous offrent les zones humides. Donc, je ne vais pas y revenir. Donc, je crois que le Dr. Hilda a clairement défini les services culturels, les services de régulation, le service d'approvisionnement et le service écosystémique. Mais ce qu'il faut retenir ici, c'est que ces zones humides nous offrent une multitude de biens et de services, d'avantages que nous tirons et que les gens commencent maintenant à percevoir. et que nous essayons de classer à travers cette notion de service écosystémique. Si on fait allusion aux objectifs du millénaire de développement durable, donc nous voyons que les zones humides, ce que nous appelons le capital naturel, constituent le socle même de ces objectifs, et ça nous laisse voir clairement que ces zones humides, ces écosystèmes, les services qu'ils nous offrent sont essentiels pour notre bien-être. Sur le schéma, sur la figure de droite également, le dernier rapport de Sir Daksuta montre clairement qu'il y a un lien très étroit entre la biodiversité, les zones humides et l'économie. Donc, ça a été démontré donc, à suffisance dans ce document également. Et l'évaluation n'a pas commencé aujourd'hui. L'évaluation économique des valeurs des services écosystémiques a commencé depuis très longtemps et nous nous souvenons tous, je crois, du premier article de Costanza. Il y a eu après les rapports successifs donc, de la série TEP, ainsi de suite, ainsi de suite. Et quand on prend un document de Marine and Freshwater Research de 2019, une estimation des valeurs économiques totales des zones humides s'élève à 47 milliards de dollars par an. Ceci montre déjà l'importance donc, de ces zones et tout ce que cela procure comme bien-être à l'humanité. Désolé, mon slide. Si on se pose la question aujourd'hui du pourquoi il est important de penser à travailler sur cette évaluation économique, ce que les économistes nous disent aujourd'hui, qu'il y a une invisibilité économique des zones humides. On a une large connaissance sur les aspects écologiques, sur le fonctionnement de ces écosystèmes, mais aujourd'hui, quand on la place dans la dimension économique, il y a beaucoup de choses que sur lesquelles nous devons travailler pour mieux appréhender l'importance de ces zones. Quand on prend le dernier rapport que j'ai évoqué tantôt, donc on note très clairement une dégradation, une tendance générale de dégradation de ces zones humides. Cela veut dire une forte pression sur ces écosystèmes-là. Et cela nous invite à nous poser la question tout naturellement de savoir aujourd'hui quelles sont les causes sous-jacentes de cette détérioration de ces zones humides-là, parce qu'il faut qu'on puisse identifier les véritables barrières et pouvoir les lever. Et c'est ce que je disais, Pavan Tugdev, l'une des économistes qui a beaucoup travaillé sur cette question, disait que l'une des principales causes de la dégradation de notre capital naturel en général, donc des zones humides en particulier, c'est son invisibilité économique. Donc, il précise et dit que notre boussole économique est aujourd'hui complètement déréglée. Donc, il faudrait qu'on fasse l'effort de pouvoir avoir cette vocabulaire économique, de pouvoir faire ressortir l'importance économique de ces zones humides pour éclairer la prise de décision. Nous allons essayer de démontrer ça par la suite. À quoi doit nous servir l'évaluation économique? Je crois que c'est le docteur Jean qui l'a largement évoqué dans sa présentation. Les objectifs qui sont visés aujourd'hui quand on fait recours à l'évaluation économique, c'est de pouvoir déterminer les flux des bénéfices que nous tirons de ces écosystèmes-là. Nous savons tous que sur le plan quantitatif, quand on fait référence au service d'approvisionnement, on a beaucoup d'avantages, mais il y a des éléments qui sont moins tangibles et pour autant, ils ont beaucoup d'importance qu'il faudrait aussi essayer d'appréhender pour circonscrire ou pour mieux appréhender la totalité de l'importance de ces zones humides. Ils nous permettront aussi d'évaluer les avantages et les coûts donc des interventions sur les écosystèmes, parce que tout ce que nous faisons en termes de développement, en termes d'aménagement, en termes de projets, en termes de programmes, nous faisons au quotidien un exercice très simple et pour autant très complexe, à savoir une analyse coût-avantage. Donc, il nous faut pouvoir rassembler ou recenser l'ensemble des coûts, mais également l'ensemble des avantages pour pouvoir prendre la décision la plus optimale. Il y aura forcément des situations où il faudrait faire des dédommagements, où il y aura des personnes qui seront impactées. Il faudrait essayer de voir comment ces compensations doivent pouvoir se faire. Mais également, aujourd'hui, particulièrement dans ce contexte de changement sur le climat, la question du financement est essentielle et l'aspect évaluation économique aussi, en démontrant que nous sommes en train de perdre un capital incommensurable, cela permet aussi de pouvoir mieux sensibiliser les bailleurs, mais aussi de pouvoir les financer. Donc, in fine, ce que nous disons, c'est que cet exercice qui est fondamental permet d'éclairer donc la prise de décision. Maintenant, pourquoi l'exercice est complexe? Ça, nous avons essayé de schématiser, nous n'allons pas y revenir en profondeur parce que le temps ne nous le permettra pas. Sur la figure de droite, nous avons essayé de schématiser un peu la complexité, mais aussi la pluralité des valeurs donc, de ces services écosystémiques-là. Quand vous voyez un peu ce schéma-là, donc nous voyons que ces zones humides nous fournissent tellement de valeurs que en fait, on ne prend pas très souvent la totalité, donc la conscience de la totalité donc de ces valeurs-là que nous tirons de ces zones humides. Aussi complexe soit ce schéma, cela renvoie aussi à la difficulté de pouvoir évaluer chacune des valeurs. C'est ce que nous avons essayé de représenter en bas à gauche. Donc, je crois que Dr. Hilda a un peu évoqué ces aspects-là. Donc, on a des approches qui sont basées sur le marché, des approches qui sont basées sur les préférences révélées, mais aussi des approches qui sont basées sur des préférences déclarées. Donc, on verra que ces techniques sont complexes, ces techniques sont chronophages, ces techniques coûtent beaucoup de budget, raison pour laquelle aujourd'hui, la thématique qui a été retenue dans le cadre de cette journée mondiale sur les zones humides est très pertinente. Comment aujourd'hui essayer d'économiser du temps, d'économiser des ressources en faisant recours donc, à l'outil de cartographie, à l'outil donc, de la télédétection. Donc, ce qui nous permet d'aller un peu, pour schématiser, pour ceux qui sont, je ne dirais pas novices, mais ceux qui voudront comprendre de façon très simple, quelle est la logique qui est derrière aujourd'hui le fait qu'on ait recours donc, à cet outil de cartographie. Donc, j'ai essayé de schématiser de façon vraiment très simple quelles sont les étapes fondamentales qu'il faudrait suivre. Une première partie, c'est avec la cartographie, cela nous permet de délimiter déjà l'aire géographique, l'aire d'intervention et d'avoir les différentes couches d'informations qui nous permettront de pouvoir identifier les différents services écosystémiques qui sont offerts au niveau donc, de la zone humide, ce qui nous renvoie au bloc 2. Au bloc 3, après avoir identifié ces différents services écosystémiques, il faut maintenant aller vers l'évaluation économique. Pour chaque service, comment déterminer la valeur donc, que la communauté, la valeur que les populations donc, accordent à ces services écosystémiques-là. Et je vous avais dit qu'il y a une pluralité de valeurs, donc de méthodologies, des approches du marché en passant par les préférences révélées, les préférences déclarées, mais aussi le transfert de valeur. Mais ce qu'il faut noter, c'est que chacune de ces méthodologies-là, des fois, porte sur un seul service écosystémique et ça prend énormément de temps et coûte beaucoup d'argent, raison pour laquelle la cartographie devient un outil donc, très important. Il y a un facteur fondamental auquel les gens font référence quand on fait ce travail d'évaluation, c'est le transfert donc, de valeur. Aujourd'hui, il y a un effort considérable qui est en train d'être fait sur la constitution de bases de données. Je fais allusion aux bases de données portant sur l'évaluation des écosystèmes qui, à date, enregistre 9500 valeurs enregistrées pour 1100 études. Donc, tous les écosystèmes n'ont pas le même niveau d'informations sur cette base. Donc, l'effort qu'on doit faire, c'est de continuer à améliorer cette base davantage parce que la méthode de transfert de valeur est la méthodologie la plus utilisée aujourd'hui par différents outils et qui nous permettent de gagner en temps, mais aussi donc d'avoir des résultats qui sont fiables. Donc, cela me permet d'aller sur un cas concret pour montrer un peu comment cet exercice donc, est réalisé. On a pris le cas donc, de Kalimantan en Indonésie comme comme alibi pour un peu décrire quelle est la logique qui est derrière l'utilisation des cartes et la combinaison avec les autres types de méthodologies pour avoir les valeurs que nous cherchons. L'objectif ici, c'est de pouvoir développer la comptabilité des services écosystémiques. Sur un point sur lequel je vais revenir donc à la fin de ma présentation. Ce qu'il visait à travers ce travail-là, c'est de pouvoir avoir un soutien à la planification de l'utilisation des terres, donc l'occupation des sols, mais aussi de suivre, et le docteur Hilda l'a évoqué dans sa présentation, de suivre
your representation, to have monitoring of the impact.
Les systèmes sont modifiés par rapport aux décisions que nous prenons et quels sont les gains que nous avons et quelles sont les pertes que nous devons donc considérer. Donc les drivers là-bas, donc les facteurs, les forces motrices, donc c'était un peu la transformation des terres ou bien la conversion des terres par rapport à la culture donc de palmier à huile. Donc ils font une modélisation spatiale et les services qui ont été identifiés, je les ai cités dans le tableau, c'est de l'approvisionnement, la régulation et le service culturel. Ce qu'il faut noter ici, c'est que malgré l'immense effort qu'ils font dans le travail de modélisation, c'est difficile de pouvoir faire la modélisation pour l'ensemble des services écosystémiques que nous offrent donc, les zones humides. Donc nous partons déjà vers une sous-évaluation donc, de la valeur économique de ces zones humides, ce qui va sans dire que l'information qui sera tirée donc, de ces exercices-là doit être traitée avec beaucoup plus de recul et beaucoup plus d'attention si on doit communiquer l'information, par exemple, aux auteurs. Donc, les méthodes d'évaluation, ils utilisent la rente donc, de la ressource. Comme je l'ai dit, il y a plusieurs méthodes d'évaluation. Et cette méthode de rente de la ressource fait référence un peu aux méthodologies basées sur le marché, mais ils utilisent aussi les approches basées sur les coûts pour essayer de déterminer maintenant par rapport au type de services écosystèmes identifiés, quelles sont donc les valeurs. Tout ceci permet de faire une cartographie et cette cartographie permet maintenant de donner des valeurs par rapport aux différents types d'écosystèmes qui ont été identifiés, mais également de pouvoir faire une extrapolation parce que ce qui est important ici, c'est que si vous partez sur des méthodes individuelles, vous êtes un peu, vous n'intervenez que sur des surfaces plus ou moins réduites, mais avec l'outil de télédétection, avec l'outil de cartographie, cela vous permet de couvrir des étendues très larges. Ici, on était sur 153 500 km. Donc, pour dire que, du moins, kilomètres carrés, pour dire l'importance donc, de faire recourir à ces outils-là. Le docteur l'a dit, mon prédécesseur, cela permet aussi, en fonction des types d'écosystèmes qui ont été identifiés et en fonction des services qui ont été sélectionnés, de donner des valeurs, donc de les spatialiser, mais également de pouvoir suivre leur évolution, mais surtout d'avoir un outil très puissant quand on doit aller sur les questions d'aménagement du territoire, sur les questions d'occupation du sol.
Seydi, vous avez besoin de combien de minutes encore?
Quelques 2 à 3 minutes, hein, j'ai fini.
Oui, c'est ça, vraiment.
Donc,
merci.
Ouais. Donc, en plus de ces outils qui sont plus ou moins complexes et qui demandent quand même un temps de travail assez considérable, aujourd'hui, il faut dire que en faisant recours à la cartographie, il y a des outils aujourd'hui qui sont relativement puissants et qui permettent d'avoir des résultats plus ou moins pertinents et robustes, même si c'est parfois des proxys. Je veux citer Invest aujourd'hui, qui permet de travailler sur des modèles. Donc, il y a 19 modèles qui ont été développés donc, à travers cet outil-là, donc suivant le type de service qu'on veut évaluer, donc notamment le carbone, la vulnérabilité côtière, la qualité de l'habitat, et qui donne aussi des cartes, ce que j'ai représenté sur la droite, qui nous permet d'avoir des données quantitatives sur le plan biophysique, mais aussi des données quantitatives sur le plan économique. Il y a ABC Map aussi qui a été développé par la FAO, donc qui permet en faisant rentrer comme input des cartes, mais aussi des données. Et c'est un outil que nous avons déjà appliqué dans le delta du Saloum, mais aussi dans beaucoup de pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, donc qui permettent d'avoir des sorties relativement intéressantes, non seulement sur les profils climatiques et géophysiques, sur la biodiversité, notamment le capital naturel, leurs valeurs donc, économiques, l'abondance des espèces sur le carbone et qui nous permet d'avoir des données relativement robustes sur le plan économique et sur les services écosystémiques de telles entités. Je disais que j'allais finir la présentation en revenant un peu sur la citation de Pavan Sukhdev qui nous disait il faut découvrir quelle est la véritable nature de la valeur pour mieux considérer la valeur de la nature. Donc, ce qu'il faut dire en conclusion ici, c'est que ce travail est le fait de pouvoir shifter entre des questions biologiques, des questions fondamentalement environnementales vers un discours économique. Ça permet d'évaluer les services que ces zones humides rendent réellement à l'humanité, mais aussi de pouvoir appréhender les pertes de leur dégradation. D'une manière très simple, pour pouvoir caricaturer tout cela, ça permet d'éclairer la prise de décision. La prise de décision se fait à tous les niveaux, du niveau du technicien sur le terrain, du niveau de la communauté utilisatrice de la ressource jusqu'au niveau du décideur que nous considérons ici en termes, dans un jargon plus familier que nous avons, donc les politiques. Donc cela permet de pouvoir poser les meilleurs actes et de pouvoir éviter donc de continuer sur cette tendance de dégradation continue de cette importante ressource qui est à la source de nos bien-être. Ce qu'il faut maintenant améliorer dans ce sens-là pour les next steps, pour les travaux futurs, c'est de continuer à travailler sur la précision et la fiabilité des données, parce que si on rentre dans la boîte noire de toutes ces méthodologies, on se rend compte que il y a beaucoup d'imprécisions, donc il faudrait améliorer fondamentalement. Mais également, il y a beaucoup de services écosystémiques qui sont les plus difficiles à évaluer, qui sont toujours laissés en rade, ce qui fait qu'on ne parvient pas à déterminer la majeure partie des valeurs que nous offrent ces écosystèmes. Mais également, il faut continuer à travailler maintenant, après l'obtention de ces résultats, à pouvoir les intégrer à travers des outils et des mécanismes dans la prise de décision, dans la planification du développement. Et la comptabilité aujourd'hui des écosystèmes est un grand début dans les pays qui nous concernent, sur lesquels il faudrait continuer à travailler fondamentalement. Voilà en quelques slides, parce que 10 minutes est assez court pour développer davantage ces méthodologies-là, ce que nous aimerions partager sur cette question aussi importante de l'utilisation donc des outils cartographiques dans l'évaluation économique des services des zones humides. Je vous remercie. Merci bien, mon collègue.
Merci beaucoup. Vraiment, quelle complémentarité entre ces trois présentations. Vraiment, vous nous avez entretenu sur le VET, sur vraiment l'importance de la cartographie par rapport à la régulation avec tous les systèmes qui jouent les zones humides, avec l'importance maintenant des acteurs, avec les outils qui sont d'appoint. Ça, vraiment, c'est une complémentarité après avoir écouté vos collègues qui ont vraiment également essayé d'aller en profondeur. Actuellement, I want to be a very good moderator now because we are now beyond the time. We are running after time. We were supposed to finish at 4, and now it's, I think, if I am right, it's 10 to 4. If I am correct, now we have our big people, because after listening to Dr. Jane as a keynote speaker, Dr. Emmanuel and Dr. Mbow, which has gone into important focusing on the key notes regarding the main topics we was supposed to deliver. And from where we dash to the economical valuation of wetlands and the importance in terms of policy, in terms of science, in terms of community and communications. Now we have to go to the last steps, and I would ask our big friends coming here now for the discussion. They are the key ones, really, because I'm sure we don't have time to go into discussions and burning questions to our presenters, our panelists. But from them, we might be ending with a very, very focused point which we can raise and try to elaborate for a couple of minutes. And after that, we might be ending with good conclusions. Thank you very much. I move to Dr. Bryce Montprax, is it here?
Oui.
Oui, allez-y.
Docteur, non, Monsieur Brice Monfray. Merci de me passer la parole. Alors, je vais expliquer. Je suis l'expert politique environnementale de l'équipe d'assistance technique au programme GMS et Afrique, qui est donc un programme mis en place par la Commission européenne. Cette équipe est mise en place auprès de la Commission de l'Union africaine par la Commission européenne.
Fermez vos micros, s'il vous plaît.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Donc, je reprends. Je disais
On
que
vous entend.
je m'appelle Brice. Est-ce que vous avez entendu? Donc, je disais que j'étais l'expert politique environnemental de l'équipe d'assistance technique au programme GMS et l'Afrique. Donc, au nom de la Commission de l'Union africaine et celle de l'Union européenne, je voudrais, du coordonnateur, Dr Iwatara, et de l'ensemble de l'équipe, on salue cette initiative du CSE qui est menée en étroite collaboration avec leurs, et le SASCAL. Et nous remercions vivement les organisateurs d'avoir associé l'unité de gestion de projet à cet événement. Je vais rapidement rappeler quelques points sur GMES et puis ensuite je ferai quelques observations sur les présentations. Cette initiative qu'on a aujourd'hui est vraiment quelque chose qui combine tout ce que le programme encourage depuis 2017 autour de l'usage des données d'observation de la Terre. En fait, ce que l'on observe à travers ce webinaire, c'est que, et à travers plus généralement les projets qui traitent de cette question, voire au-delà, on constate donc que les Africains travaillent ensemble, ils travaillent en synergie, ils s'engagent et engagent les parties prenantes, ils partagent leurs expertises, leurs connaissances et leurs données, et ils contribuent ainsi à un processus d'intégration continentale qui, pour ceux qui ne le savent pas, est un point clé de l'action de l'Union africaine et des régions économiques. Donc, on est heureux finalement de voir quelque chose comme le webinaire se mettre en place et toutes les actions qui ont été menées depuis le début. À mieux gérer les ressources naturelles d'Afrique grâce à l'usage des données d'observation de la Terre et celles issues plus particulièrement du programme européen Copernicus. Donc, on a vu, et c'était une de mes observations aussi dans les discussions, enfin, dans les présentations des speakers, que vraiment l'observation de la Terre est un outil extrêmement important dans la gestion, par exemple, des zones humides, mais on peut étendre cette importance à l'ensemble des ressources naturelles. Donc, je vais expliquer rapidement. Le programme GMS et l'Afrique procède via la mise en place d'une approche systémique. Donc, il facilite l'accès aux données et produits d'observation de la Terre. Donc, encore une fois, c'est quelque chose qui est central dans les discussions qu'on a. Il renforce les capacités d'institutions africaines. Actuellement, après près de 7 années d'intervention, on a à peu près 200 institutions africaines qui ont été impliquées étroitement ou de manière plus lointaine dans le programme. Il renforce donc la capacité des institutions africaines à mettre en place des services aux usagers. Il cherche à créer un écosystème propice à l'usage des données satellitaires parce que non seulement il faut qu'ils aient une capacité, mais en même temps, il faut qu'en aval, il y ait une attente, un système, un écosystème qui se mette en place. Et il sensibilise, il éduque, il conseille sur l'intérêt de cette technologie pour la gestion des ressources naturelles. Actuellement, on aurait formé on aurait touché à peu près 10 000 personnes depuis le début du programme. Donc, ce qui est important à retenir dans GMES, et c'est vraiment quelque chose qui ressort du webinaire que l'on voit, c'est que c'est un programme qui est mis en place par les Africains pour le bénéfice des Africains au niveau des 5 régions du continent. Il est panafricain, c'est-à-dire que toutes les régions sont impliquées, ce qui représente pas loin de 30 millions de kilomètres carrés. Il est entièrement géré par l'Union africaine. C'est un programme phare d'ailleurs de l'Union africaine et son internalisation actuellement est un gage au sein de l'Union africaine est un gage de durabilité et d'engagement de l'institution. Et d'une certaine manière, il reflète aussi ce qui se passe à l'échelle de l'Afrique dans le domaine spatial. Donc maintenant, maintenant que j'ai présenté un petit peu les points que vous devez connaître sur GMES et l'importance que ça peut représenter pour l'Union africaine et au-delà, j'ai quelques observations sur les présentations. Je vais essayer d'être bref. Donc, ce que je constate, c'est que pratiquement tous les speakers et les keynote speakers comme les speakers ont insisté sur l'importance de l'IO Alors, évidemment, le programme est extrêmement content, et au-delà, l'Union africaine et l'Union européenne, parce que justement, c'est le but du programme. Le but du programme, c'est de promouvoir l'usage de l'observation de la Terre pour gérer toutes ces problématiques de gestion des ressources naturelles, mais pas que. L'observation de la Terre est vraiment une sorte de couteau suisse et pour gérer bien au-delà de ce qui est simplement les ressources naturelles. Le deuxième point que je note, et c'est, je crois, une présentation qui a été faite par M. Alioune Saidi et qui m'a frappé, c'est l'inconsistance entre l'évaluation économique, donc la valeur des zones humides, on n'est pas loin de 50 milliards de dollars, et le fait qu'elles soient invisibles. Alors, d'une certaine manière, je dirais, c'est quelque chose qui frappe, mais je dirais, tant mieux pour nous qui travaillons dans le domaine d'observation à la Terre. Parce que GMES contribue, l'observation de la Terre contribue à révéler finalement les zones humides et toutes les problématiques qu'il peut y avoir autour de la gestion des ressources naturelles. Donc, c'est un point extrêmement intéressant. Et puis, peut-être le dernier point qui m'a frappé aussi, c'est l'importance aussi des services dans la chaîne de valeur ajoutée. En fait, on a des données, on a des usagers, et les services sont le point de connexion entre ces données, les fournisseurs de ces données et les usagers, et plus largement, je pense que ces services sont le point de connexion entre les données et les informations, c'est-à-dire comment convertir ce qui est donné, un flux continu de données qui est comparable à celui qu'on a avec la télévision actuellement, mais certaines informations surgissent de ces données. Et à ce niveau-là se placent les services, et donc en particulier tous les consortiums qui travaillent au développement de ces services de manière continue, avec beaucoup d'assiduité et beaucoup d'investissement depuis le début du programme. Donc, je pense que voilà les trois éléments d'observation sur les présentations qui ont été faites, et je voudrais encore une fois, au nom du coordinateur et toute l'équipe, de vous remercier et vous féliciter en vous assurant que nous sommes engagés auprès de vous à ne ménager aucun effort à atteindre l'ensemble des résultats attendus de ce programme. Merci.
Merci vraiment, M. Brice, parce que vraiment, vous avez été très pointu par rapport à votre intervention pour expliquer l'importance également des institutions. Et ce qui a frappé tout le monde, c'est des outils ou des organisations, des initiatives faites pour l'Afrique et par l'Afrique, pour également essayer de contribuer dans ce domaine-là. Merci beaucoup. Nous allons donner la parole au Dr. Gabadji. I hope I have pronounced it well, docteur.
Il s'appelle Gani Agbadje.
Hello,
Gani
yeah.
Agbadje.
Agbadje, yeah, that's right. Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First, I'd like to thank the organizers for actually, let me put off the interpretation. I don't know. Okay. Hello?
Yes.
Is it okay now? Okay, great.
Yes, go ahead. Maybe
they will sort it out. Okay. Yeah, for inviting me for this very important webinar. My comment will be straightforward, and I will use the opportunity also to bring about a new initiative from the African Union Commission, which is one of the new networks from the GMES and Africa. First, I'd like to appreciate the
Doctor? Doctor? Hope you're not losing doctor.
Yeah, we lost Dr. Agbadje.
If it is so, we can move direct to Muhammad Cheikh.
Yes.
Yes, and when he comes back, he can intervene. Muhammad Cheikh Rebe Ogo, chef de zone humide, point focal de la Convention de Ramsar, secrétaire permanent du Conseil national pour le développement durable Burkina Faso. Vous avez la parole. Doctor, you're back. You're mute. You're mute. Doctor, you are on mute.
Okay. Are you okay now?
Yes.
Are you hearing me? I
Yes.
just decided to put up video. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that looking at the economic value is very important. And I believe that this is a very good step towards comparing the economic value of whatever the government or decision makers want to use the land for, and the value of the wetlands itself. It's a big running battle. But I need to start from my observation on the issue of celebration. I look at the title first, like celebration of wetlands. I look at it as what you celebrate is achievement. You want to showcase it or utilization of it. So I'm just raising the point of caution that yes, celebration, we need to showcase what we have done and how have they been taken in by decision makers in order to better our environment. That is one. Secondly, when it comes to EU, which is long time that has been quoted that the best way to actually observe our environment is through from above the atmosphere, so that we're able to manage it properly. As quoted severally by Socrates in 450 BC. The Group on Earth Observation, which was established in 2005, was to create a world. The main aim is to create a world where decisions and actions are informed by a coordinated, comprehensive, and sustained Earth observation. This is very key, and we don't have much in terms of pushing it forward, the importance of Earth observation in finding solution to so many human intervention that is taking place within our environment, especially in the wetlands area. Through the various work that's been done under the GMS program, key among them is that of wetlands and floods. Sometimes it is now found out that there has been so many efforts made. The effort made in terms of getting all necessary
Seems we have lost Doctor once again. Doctor? Anyway,
Moderator, you better move to the next speaker, and then Doctor will come for the conclusion with you.
Yes, I think it's a must. Yeah. Mahamadou, vous êtes là? Mahamadou? Allô, Docteur Mohamedou?
It looks the network is...
Sidibé?
Hello? Hello?
Sidibé, vous êtes là?
Am I hearing you? Hello?
Doctor,
Hello?
Doctor, hold on, please. Hold on, doctor.
Okay.
Sidibé, vous êtes là? Mohamed, vous êtes là? Très bien. Je crois que nos deux collègues, peut-être pour des raisons indépendantes de leur volonté, ils ne sont pas là. Nous allons Nous allons écouter docteur... Allô, Mahamadou? Sidibé? Bon, je crois qu'ils ont des problèmes de connexion ou peut-être ils avaient déjà dit ça, qu'il se pourrait qu'ils soient sur le terrain pour des problèmes de connexion. Nous allons rapidement essayer de conclure avec docteur pour ensuite avoir le statement de closing avec certainement Dr. Jane qu'on va inviter avec la permission de High Table. Dr. Agbaji?
Yeah, can I continue?
Yeah, I think you are closing now at somehow because your statement and your observations and focusing on what you're saying is quite summarizing what has been mentioned here so far in terms of achievements. I think you have a couple of...
That's still one more point I need to raise with regards to
Yes, I'm going to give you the floor.
Okay.
I think you can take 2 more minutes, which means you can carry on, and at least at the end you can just maybe make a kind of somehow important closing statement, which before we hand it over to Jane on the High Table. You can continue you can continue your inputs, and then you
thank you very much
on behalf of the others.
Thank you very much. What I'm trying to say now is that through the African Union Commission under GMS, the need to improve knowledge on wetland and to prevent flooding in Africa from a perspective of rational and sustainable management in order to contribute to the food security and strengthen the resilience of ecosystems and communities through the use of Earth observation has evolved into the formation of AFWEN, that is the African EO Expert Network for Flood and Wetlands. This has been formed. The major objective is to develop integrated approach for EO for wetlands and flood in Africa. So through capacity building, communication outreach, and to promote regular exchanges among these experts and dialogue between. The benchmark or the strategy is to actually bring about to identify axes to reinforce the utilization of EO, the models, and so that we can integrate and combine and share what has been developed so far, starting from what has been developed under the GMS and Africa wetlands and floods. Currently, there's a governance structure, the coordination committee, there's a president, of which I am. The secretary, there are 4 working groups: infrastructure and data services, capacity building, outreach, and governance. All these are to take care in case the GMS and Africa project ends. How do we continue to meet? How do we continue to interact and make sure that the needs or what the achievement under GMS and Africa for wetlands and floods remain in a position we can continue to dialogue. Because of time, much has been done, but we'll be rolling out what we'll be doing, and the information about membership, everything will be coming up soon. So we'd like to thank the speakers and the need to really continuously broaden this webinar, probably every year, will really enrich our knowledge and ensure sustainable development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I think what you have done here is somehow the important conclusion regarding to the challenges wetlands and African are facing.
Yeah.
Improving the quality, preventing flooding, food security, poverty, information sharing, capacity development. And you are just pushing for an integrated approach, sharing knowledge, local knowledge, whatever happens. And from there, I think we can understand on behalf of the whole participants, we have really raised some key issues and conclusions which can help to move and think out of a box. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we all appreciate what has been done so far. And we are at the end of the day, somehow we have been doing a lot of efforts to be able to follow what has been done. And we congratulate and really deep as deep congratulations to the panelists, to the organizers. And also we would like, if there is no any burning question from the high table, we can hand over, with your permission, all of you to Dr. Jane, because I was in a workshop where I am now expert on gender. I have never heard gender now, but now I think I try to be clever sometime. Dr. Jane, even on behalf of the whole group, if they don't have any observation from the high table, Dr. Cheikh, Dr. Emmanuel, we can hand over to you for the closing remarks and the end of.
Moderator, I have a quick one.
Please
if
go
you don't
ahead.
mind.
Go ahead,
I would request each of the speakers to give us one page that summarizes their presentation. We will compile them and put it in English and French to go together with a slideshow that we will share with the community as an outreach, document. Thank you.
Very, very good statement. Very good, because I see some of them has been asking for the presentation, at least some summary from them. Thank you very much for the reminder. Dr. Jane, you have a floor.
Thank you so much.
Okay, yes. Great. She's around.
Thank you so much, colleagues, dear moderator, dear speakers, dear panelists and discussants, dear colleagues. I really wish to thank Dr. Mbo for arranging this meeting. I think this is another demonstration that we can work together.
Que nous pouvons travailler ensemble, ceci montre que nous pouvons travailler ensemble.
And it is what we have to do. I think what I've heard today was all very amazing. The speakers were on point. The welcome remarks were all really placed in their right places on the high level issues that we face, and also the solutions we must put in place to restore the wetlands. The technical were really interesting. I'm so much interested in the economic impacts of the wetlands, and also finding robust methodology to be able to reach those cents, or whatever you call them, the currencies. That was really amazing. So I wish to thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, colleagues, for your patience, and I am very grateful to be here. And by the way, I think this meeting is such a good, how do you call it? A good sign, because it's been raining in Windhoek. You know, Namibia is a desert, but the whole of this afternoon has been raining. That's why my internet was going on and off. So well done, and I wish you all a very good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Jane. And thanks all. I think we can end it there. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye. It was lovely. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Doctor. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.